Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this Game 3 World Series MLB DFS slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Before we get into it, if you could please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, I'll greatly appreciate it. That's going to help me out a ton. And I'm going to be here all World Series breaking down these showdown slates to give you the edge and some details and some strategies on how to take down the big money on these slates. Viewership's been up a lot these last few videos during the World Series. I greatly appreciate every single one of you guys. And I'm going to continue to produce great content for you guys. I appreciate the support, and let's go ahead and start breaking down this slate today. So, if you don't know by now, I just want to make sure everyone does know. Due to COVID-19, these games will be played at Globe Life Field, the brand new Texas Rangers Stadium in Arlington, Texas. And I just like to point out the field dimensions because it's always important to know the field dimensions when playing MLB DFS. If there's a short porch that you can target left-handed hitting or right-handed hitting, you need to know that. So on the left side we have Globe Life Park, the old Texas Ranger Stadium, and on the right side we have the new Globe Life Field, built in Arlington, Texas. 326 down the line to right, 329 down the line to left, 372 to left center, 374 to right center, 407 to straightaway, and 410 to more of the left side. So overall, it's a pretty good hitter's park. It's pretty even across the board. There's not really a short porch on either side. If you've tuned into my other videos in the World Series, I apologize if that's getting repetitive, but if you haven't, I think that's great info and you need to know it. So, quick little field dimensions check in there. And next, the starting pitching. So tonight we're going to have Charlie Morton taking on Walker Buehler. We're breaking down their stats. We can see that overall they're pretty, they're fairly even this year. We're dealing with a 38 innings pitch sample size for Charlie Morton and a 36.2 innings pitch sample size for Walker Buehler. In the short season, we have a 28.6% K rate for Buehler compared to a 24.7 for Morton. So Buehler has an advantage in the strikeout rate. The ground ball, the fly ball, the walk rate all looks better for Morton, however. And then when looking at splits against right-handed hitting, Morton's given up a 413 slugging compared to Walker Buehler's 393. The WOBA was better for Buehler, however, the ground ball, the fly ball, and the walk rate's all worse. So Charlie Morton's definitely standing out better against righties as far as that's concerned, but Walker Buehler has a higher K rate. And then against lefties, Morton's given up a 452 slugging with a 337 WOBA, 43.9% fly ball rate, compared to Buehler's 324, 24.5, and 240. So Walker Buehler has been much more effective to lefties compared to Charlie Morton, and Charlie Morton's been pretty not impressive to lefties, to be honest. I mean, a 452 slugging, 337 WOBA, 43.9% fly ball rate, and then the ground ball and the walk rate. He hasn't really looked that great against left-handed hitting, and we might be able to capitalize on that tonight against the Dodgers lineup that has some lefties that can definitely slug. So something to keep an eye on there. And then keep an eye on the fact that Walker Buehler has been worse against right-handed hitting compared to lefties, actually. So that's not very common. They call that reverse splitsky. He's a right-handed pitcher that's actually been worse against righties. So something to keep an eye on, just some food for thought there. And when we're looking at the lineups tonight and the projected Vegas lines, you can see that Vegas is projecting this to have a 7.5 over-under, 3.36 implied run total for the Tampa Bay Rays, and a 4.14 implied run total for the Los Angeles Dodgers. So I'd like to go ahead and break down, the repertoire of each of these pitchers, figure out some pitches that they throw and what they throw, and then figure out some hitters that we can target from it. And then we'll go ahead and start breaking down some lineup building on FanDuel first, and then we'll go over to DraftKings and figuring out some strategy as we go along here. The only other thing I want to mention before we get into the pitch data, though, is real quickly just looking at the team hitting data for you guys, so you can figure out which of these teams will target. On DraftKings, we can play pitching, so just look at, and then obviously we want to look at how they perform as an offense overall anyway. So the Rays have a 26% K rate. The WOBA, the ISO, the slugging, the BABIP, the fly ball is all pretty good. This is a color-coded sheet that I give to my patrons throughout the regular season. And against splits to righties, you can see that the Rays are kind of similar to their numbers. And then lefties, their power, their ISO, their slugging, and all that stuff goes up, but their strikeout rate's down. But anyways, it doesn't matter because they're taking on the righty and Buehler, so these are the numbers we're really worried about there. And then the Dodgers, you can see the Dodgers are just absolutely stacked, and they do perform very, very well against right-handed pitching. I can tell you that before we get over to the splits right away. A 347 ISO, 476 slugging, 39.4% fly ball rate, 43.1% hard hit rate, the Dodgers just absolutely slug, and they definitely slug against right-handed pitching. A 505 slugging, that's just beyond impressive. 40% fly ball rate, 42.7 hard hit rate. ISO, well, but everything looks great. So, I mean, if we're picking a team to stack up, we would prefer the Dodgers. And then when it comes to bullpen data, I always like to fill you guys in on that. Once again, I got a color-coded sheet, and I pulled aside the Dodgers and the Rays and how they stack up against the rest of the league. A lot of green going on. Both bullpens are really, really good. So we can't really target a certain bullpen and feel sneaky about that. Sometimes people don't really know their bullpen data too well, and we can be sneaky and be like, oh, this team has a bad bullpen and play some bats. I don't really think that's the case in this particular thing because it's the World Series and they both have stacked bullpens. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down some pitch data, figuring out some spots that we can target with these pitchers because that's how I've had my success in MLB DFS in the past. I highly recommend looking at pitch data. It gives us a lot of insight as to what these pitchers throw. So Charlie Morton, very reliant on the curveball. I will start with that because he throws the curveball about 39% of the time against left-handed hitting and then 33% of the time against right-handed hitting. When looking at how these hitters in the lineup perform, I can tell you one thing, Mookie Betts really struggles against the curveball. And that's going to increase my liking or how much I like the slate because I like to fade the good hitters in the showdown slates. If you've been tuning in, I like to play the low-owned guys. So as we're looking at this pitching data, we're going to want to look at guys that are going to be lower-owned, maybe towards the bottom of the order, and that profile well. So I can tell you one thing, though. Corey Seager looks very, very good in the 2 spot. He's a 389 ISO against the curveball. 402 WOBA, very impressive. Justin Turner, Max Muncy, Mookie Betts don't look too good against it. Will Smith, we don't have a lot of data. Cody Bellinger slugs it very well, a 243 slugging. Edwin Rios, if he's in the lineup, we don't really have a lot of data on him. And then Jock Peterson and Chris Taylor profile very well against the curveball as well, with a 240 ISO for Peterson and a 261 ISO for Chris Taylor. Next on the list, he throws a sinker 31% of the time against right-handed hitting. He only throws it 8% of the time against lefties, so we're really looking at the right-handed bats when it comes to the sinker. And Mookie does hit that pitch very well, a 265 ISO against sinkers for Mookie. Will Smith hits the pitch well, 391 ISO. And then that's pretty much the 2 guys you're looking at as far as that. Justin Turner really struggles against it, so that's 2 pitches that Morton throws a lot that Justin Turner doesn't hit well, so I would be fading him on the slate. He's probably going to be highly owned, high in the order, and he doesn't look too well against Charlie Morton, so I would recommend fading Justin Turner tonight. And then lastly, the pitch he throws the most is the fastball in the 94 to 96 mile an hour range, and he throws it 39% of the time against left-handed hitting and then 20.9% of the time against right-handed hitting. So he throws it a lot against left-handed hitting, but he throws it against both guys. So Mookie hits that pitch very well. Corey Seager, once again, looks good, so I like Corey Seager tonight. Max Muncy with a 268 ISO, that's great. Cody Bellinger with a 243, that's looking good. And then Jock Peterson with a 386 and Edwin Rios. So we only have a 1 batted ball event, but he has a 500 ISO against that pitch. So, you know, looking at this Dodgers lineup, we had discussed Charlie Morton's giving up a 452 slugging to left-handed hitting over here, a 337 WOBA, a 43.9% fly ball rate. So, you know, when breaking down the pitch data and how these guys excel, I'm really liking Cody Bellinger, Jock Peterson, Max Muncy, Corey Seager, those lefties. I really like them today. So let's move on to the Rays and how they stack up against Mr. Walker Buehler and the stuff he throws. Walker Buehler throws a 96 plus mile an hour fastball. He just throws gas, and he throws that 51 to 53% of the time. So he throws his fastball a lot. And we're looking at how the Rays stack up against that particular pitch. Austin Meadows doesn't look too good. Brandon Lyles, respectable. He has a 386 WOBA, 200 ISO. That's pretty good. However, I will say Brandon Lyles has been getting overpowered by fastballs up in the zone all playoffs. It's kind of been a trend. They're just throwing gas at his letters. If you're watching the game tonight and you see Walker Buehler just throw 96 plus mile an hour gas at his letters 3 times and see Lyles swing 3 times through and strike out, don't be surprised. So a little bit of a warning there. He did go deep last game, but as far as I'm concerned, he's been struggling against the fastball and he's taken out a guy that throws 96 plus. So I'm probably going to fade Brandon Lyles tonight. So that's my little spiel on him. Willy Adames looks really good against the pitch. He has a 228 slugging, 332 WOBA, and then Kevin Kiermaier looks very, very good for a hitter that's not too good with his bat. Traditionally, he has a 308 ISO with a 429 WOBA, and I have a feeling that has to do with Kevin Kiermaier's hitting style. He's not really a guy that swings for the fences. He just kind of gets his bat on the ball, and when the guy throws 96 plus, that's going to help him out. So I like Kiermaier. I like Willy Adames. I like Brandon Lau. Kinda, I guess. I don't like Brandon Lau, to be honest with you. He profiles well, so I get it if you want to play him. But with what I've been seeing in the postseason and how pitchers are throwing to him, I'm going to go ahead and fade Lau tonight. And then the rest of Buehler's stuff, he really doesn't throw that much, to be honest. He's got a slider, cutter, and curveball. But he only throws each of them about 10% of the time. So I guess we'll just run through and see who does best against those. But we're really looking at the fastball and who gets best at those. So we have Austin Meadows, G-Man Choi, and Kevin Kiermaier and Mike Zunino against the slider. They perform the best as far as that's concerned. The cutter, we have Austin Meadows, Brandon Lau, and Mike Zunino hits the cutter very, very well. So Mike Zunino is a sneaky play down at the bottom of the order against that cutter. I mean, he only throws it 14.68% of the time, and Zunino didn't grade out well against the fastball, so keep that in mind. But he does profile well against the cutter. Austin Meadows crushes the curveball. Manuel Margot crushes the curveball. And Willy Adames crushes the curveball. So, I'm kind of excited once again because we have two very good pitchers. And when we're breaking down these lineups and how these guys profile, I mean, on the Dodgers side, a little more the top of the order profile as well. But I would say that the Rays, their top of the order doesn't really profile that well. And the bottom of the order looks a lot better. So I'm always factoring in ownership on these showdown slates. I want to play the guys that are lower owned. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start breaking down this MLB Game 3 special on FanDuel, do some lineup building. And before we get into it, I just want to explain to people, I've been preaching this all World Series long, and I'm going to continue to preach it because I think it's valid. I think it's smart. In this contest, there are 39,682 people. When you look at the payout structure, there's $100,000 to first place. It drops down to $20,000 to second place. This means that if I want to win the $100,000 prize, there are 39,681 other people that I have to beat. So, you need to play guys that are going to be low owned. Play guys that profile well is how I always go about it, but play guys that are going to be low owned and play them in unique ways. So, a guy like Mookie Betts, who's probably going to be very highly owned, we had gone over the pitch data. We had gone over how Morton's been better against righties, and Mookie doesn't really profile well against the curveball, and that's Charlie Morton's bread and butter pitch. So maybe don't want to play Mookie Betts tonight. Maybe fade him. I'd recommend leaving salary on the table if at all possible, and I would recommend playing guys lower in the order if at all possible that profile well. You don't want to just play him. Well, I say you don't want to just play him because he's low in the order, but to be honest, you might want to. It's a showdown slate. There's only one game. We're not playing a 10-game slates anymore, guys. So you have to be sneaky. You have to play different plays if you want to succeed on these slates. And anyways, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start building a lineup and kind of talking to you guys as I build it and letting you know what my thought process is. So on FanDuel, there's no pitching. DraftKings, we'll get to next. It's a little different, but on FanDuel, there's no pitching. So when I'm building these lineups, I'm looking for guys that profile well. We had gone over who does in both lineups. Scrolling through the salary, the thing about baseball is, too, it only takes that one big hit. So I had recommended, we're going to go with a really contrarian lineup, and then we'll build one that's more so, I don't know, not as off-the-wall crazy, but Kevin Kiermaier profiled very well on the order. If we put him in our MVP slot, he's going to be like 1% owned in the MVP slot. If he hits a home run again like he did in Game 1, we're looking very good. So we're going to put him in. Another guy that profiled really well, Jock Peterson at the bottom of the order. Jock Peterson profiled very well against the stuff that Charlie Morton throws, so I like him tonight. And he's a lefty, which we had mentioned. Charlie Morton's been struggling more against the lefties. So we have those two guys in our MVP slot, right? Now we get into... so we have 8,167 average per player remaining for our lineup building. Now we want to get into some of the other guys we had discussed. So I do like all the lefties for the Dodgers. So if we just throw in Cody Bellinger and Corey Seager in our utility spot, that leaves us with 7,000 left on the table, which we could throw in Brandon Lau. I wouldn't hate that. Scrolling further along, though, see if there's anyone on the cheaper end. Edwin Rios at 4.5. It's an interesting play because he is a lefty taking on Morton, and he's just been a kid that's been crushing all year. But Willy Adames was a guy that profiles very well in this matchup against Walker Buehler. So I'm going to throw in Willy Adames, and that's how I'm going to be different. So here's an example of a lineup you could throw in to be different. We have 20,000, not 20,000, we have 2,500 salary left on the table. We have Kevin Kiermaier in our MVP slot, and we have Jock Peterson in our MVP star slot, and then Cody Bellinger, Corey Seager, and Willy Adames. So we have some correlation because Willy Adames and Kevin Kiermaier hit back-to-back in the Rays order. So that's good because if Adames gets on and Kiermaier hits him in, we're getting the RBI upside and that type of thing. Then we have Cody Bellinger, Jock Peterson, similar. They're hitting close in the order, and they're hitting at the bottom of the order, and they profile well. And then we have Corey Seager at the top of the order, which I like to call a wraparound stack because, if Bellinger gets up first in the inning, right? He slaps a single. He's on base. Edwin Rios comes up and flies out. Jock Peterson slaps a single. We got runners on first and second. Chris Taylor comes up, slaps a single. We got bases loaded. Mookie Betts comes up, gets out. We got bases loaded with 2 outs. And then Corey Seager comes up and he gets all the benefit, hits the grand slam. You get points for hitting in Jock Peterson, Cody Bellinger. You get the RBIs for everything, and you get Corey Seager. So I think you get the concept there, but that's a great strategy to employ for some upside on a slate like this, on any slate. But it is a showdown slate, so we want to maximize our upside if at all possible. And we want low ownership. So these guys hit low in the order. I think Willy Adames, Kevin Kiermaier, and Jock Peterson are good plays low in the order, low owned. And then Cody Bellinger and Corey Seager will be highly owned, but we like how they profile. So that's an example lineup there. And then we'll make another one with more of the hammer spot plays, kind of sort of speak, that we had talked about. So as far as the curveball, Jock Peterson slugs that. Cody Bellinger slugs that. We had him in our lineup. Corey Seager slugs it. We had him in our lineup. So they're the guys that really excel against Morton's number one pitch in the curveball. And then the Rays, we had talked about Buehler's 96-plus mile-an-hour fastball, who Brandon Lau, Willy Adames, Kevin Kiermaier slug. So we actually, we have the pieces in our lineup. It's just a matter of how we want to place them around. So I think that was a good example overall on FanDuel. And then don't forget Max Muncy is a lefty. And we had mentioned that Morton has struggled more against lefties. So for the second build, we're going to get a little more lefty heavy in our lineup. And we're going to play the middle of this order in Muncy. And then we're going to throw in a Cody Bellinger. And then we have 6,167 per player left. So this is when we can get sneaky and play our low owned guys at the bottom of the order with cheaper salaries, so we won't use up all of our salary. So we can throw in Jock Peterson. Chris Taylor actually did profile well as well. So maybe throw him in as a low-owned play because he's last in the order. And then Kevin Kiermaier. So once again, we have a lineup with 3,000 left on the table. We have Max Muncy and Cody Bellinger in the middle lineup. We love that. They're lefties and they slug. And then we have, cheaper guys down low so that we don't use all of our salary. And I think we have a unique lineup, 3,000 left on the table. That's what we should be thinking about when we're building these lineups tonight. So moving over to DraftKings. Once again, guys, 100K to first, right? There's 26,470 people. That means I have to beat 26,469 people to reap the benefits of the 100,000 to first prize, 40,000 to second. I want to be up there. So we're looking to get unique in our lineups. We do get to play pitching over here, though. And I had mentioned on my team hitting data sheet that the Rays really stand out as the team to target when it comes to strikeout rate in comparison to the Dodgers, because we have two right-handed pitchers, and you can see the Rays strike out at a 25.5% clip against righties compared to the Dodgers, who strike out only at a 20.5% clip. So as far as pitching is concerned, I'm definitely going with Walker Buehler, who, when looking at Buehler and Morton's stats, sorry, you can see that Buehler does top him in K rate. He has a 28.6% K rate compared to Morton's 24.7%. So I'm looking to put Walker Buehler in my captain spot. I'm looking to run it back with Morton. I think Morton's going to throw a great game as well. We're just looking at strikeout upside and who has the most, and I think Buehler probably tops him there. But I don't have an issue playing either of these guys in my captain spot. I think they're both going to throw a great game. That leaves us with 6,100 average per player left on the table. So looking at the DraftKings salaries and who we're going to want to play, we like Willy Adames at 6.2. We like Jock Peterson at 5K. We like Kevin Kiermaier at 4K as a salary relief guy, and that leaves us with 9.2K. Not really sure that we want to get that sneaky. However, I will say if we go down that far, we can't afford to throw in Cody Bellinger in our lineup, which I like a lot. I would prefer to have Cody Bellinger in my lineup if possible. So I do think that that's a great lineup right there. That's a quick little build of what we could be looking at tonight. But other options to be a little more contrarian is maybe instead of playing Cody Bellinger, we play Austin Meadows, who's 6K, and that leaves us with 3,200 left on the table. So we have more salary left on the table. We like every one of those guys. We like how Austin Meadows graded out against Walker Buehler. You know, not the best grade on the slate, but he definitely looked good, and we don't use all of our salary. And I think we can feel good about that. So that's a lineup build right there. If we want to switch Mr. Buehler and Morton around, we will have more salary because Charlie Morton's, 600 cheaper. Not a ton, but it maybe give us a little more salary to play some other guys. And we could play, my top guy that I'm looking to fit in would probably be Corey Seager. So if we throw in Corey Seager, let's see, we're going to have to use some big salary relief guys because we have the double pitch build going on, though. We got Willy Adames at 6'2", so you can play Jock at 5K, and that leaves us with 5'4", which would allow us to fit in Edwin Rios. So that's another option. We have Yandy Diaz we could play maybe if he cracks the lineup, but I don't really think that it's looking like he's going to because they're not facing a left-handed pitcher. So that's a great lineup right there. We got Charlie Morton in our captain spot, Walker Buehler. We got Jock Peterson, Corey Seager at the top of the order, Kevin Kiermaier for salary relief guy, and then we got Edwin Rios, the lefty, who's taking on Charlie Morton, who we mentioned does struggle more against lefties. So that's a great lineup build right there. The only thing I don't like about that lineup build is that we use all of our salary. We're going to try to not use all of our salary if possible because I have a feeling this lineup's great and all, but someone else is going to have it because it uses all the salary. So just something to keep in mind. And that is my breakdown of this Game 3 World Series Showdown slate. If you enjoyed the content, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and leave a comment of your favorite play on tonight's slate. I gave you guys all my takes. I was really happy with the last breakdown that we did. I was all over Chris Taylor. I said, Chris Taylor's my guy. He's in the 9 spot. He profiled greatly, and he's going to be low owned. And Chris Taylor went out there and hit a bomb. So I'm always looking for those low owned plays at the bottom of the order. I think I gave you guys a few on tonight's slate. And that's all for me. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Thank you all for tuning in. I wish you all the best of luck tonight, and have a good one.